Hey guys, Chad here with Strength Rebels. Today what we're going to be talking about is our assessment model and how we want to visualize our training and how we go through assessments with every single person that we're going to be working with. And this is going to be very, very important to understanding pretty much every single video that we're going to be putting up. It's always going to come back to this because this is our kind of base foundational model of how we want to see things approached and how we want to work with our clients, all right? So we're going to go through this from a top-down approach right here. We're going to start off with a positional screen. Now there is another video. If you haven't seen it, go find it on what the positional screen actually is. But this involves postural assessment as well as some basic movement assessment of the hip hinge, the overhead assessment, and a squatting pattern. Most of this stuff right here is a little bit for the client or for the person you're working with to understand what we're going through, and then a lot for the practitioner, yourself as a person assessing the individual, to understanding their basic movement patterns. This is very, very global and not very specific, okay? From that positional screen, we're going to move into our basic assessment. So AX stands for assessment. This, again, for us is a hip hinge, the overhead assessment, and the squat assessment, okay? So each one of these, this group right here, this whole chart applies to each one of those, okay? So we go through our assessment. The very first thing we're going to do when we look at assessment is motor control. Does the athlete or the individual we're working with express motor control? We have two variations that we can go off. They're going to express limited motor control or good motor control. I'm going to start here. They're going to go through good motor control. As soon as you have good motor control, you have to assess range of motion. What range of motion do they express their motor control through? Which can be both limited as well as full. So when you see someone, and you have to understand this, someone can have good range of motion in only good motor control through partial range of motion or full. So if they come through good range of motion or good motor control, express limited range of motion, this will eventually lead to our concept of training with modifications and mobility motor control drills. So really when you get into this, our big kind of portion of what we're looking for from Strength Rebels is that we're always training top down, so loaded structural 6 exercises with the bottom up of the 4 structural mobility drill or structural drills, okay? So this is what the TD stands for, is top down, BU is bottom up. So this is training with modifications so it might be one or all mobility or motor control drills from the bottom up, right? So that's the path through motor control, good motor control, limited range of motion. Now from motor control, good to full range of motion, we end in the best place possible. That is training, which is, from our standpoint, full top down, okay? Full top down is you're training with full range of motion, the full movement pattern. You express good motor control and good range of motion. If we go to the other side of motor control, which is limited, we have limited motor control, which means they're having a problem in understanding the positions or the assessment as a whole. We then have to assess the range of motion in which that limited range of motion is through. So again, if we go motor control limited, they have a limited range of motion. With that limited motor control, we're then back to the same spot. Training with modifications and or mobility drills. Top down, bottom up, once again, the exact same process. Now when you go through a motor control that's limited and then eventually they come through the range of motion with none control, so we're expressing very little, if any, control through any range of motion, this equals only bottom up, so motor control drills. And we want to stay here as long as needed, but hopefully as minimal time as possible, working on only bottom up drills, okay? So they're only working on mobility and motor control drills at this point to improve this limited range of motion motor control. And eventually we're going to shift them this way on the continuum. This continuum works in this pattern, okay? And then once they get to here, hopefully we can bring them back up to here and eventually back to adding the top-down approach, which is training with modifications, right? Now again, we're going to have some more videos on this, guys, breaking this down individually for each one of the assessment protocols, but this as a whole picture, very, very important to understanding what us as Strength Rebels are trying to achieve and what our training and assessment models look like. Very, very important stuff, guys. There it is.